All right, YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. 2020 football season is upon us. We don't know to what extent, but that is neither here nor there. You can check out the news outlets to continue to get information on that. But here at Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, we're going to talk about what we do know at this time, War Eagle. Now, coming into this season, especially with all that's going on, the spring football being canceled, and it's very uncertain how the players are going to work out and get information as to how they're going to fit, especially within the depth charts. That's probably one of the more difficult tasks at this point, because usually, obviously, during the spring practice, it's a good time to analyze skill sets, to get a mental picture of how these particular players how their skill sets will transfer over to competing in Power 5 football, especially in the SEC. We do tend to think that the SEC West, the SEC in general, if you look at recruiting classes, tends to pool in, at least from a numerical standpoint, some of the more talented players in the nation, which is reflective in the results. SEC championships, obviously, by, Georgia. Well, not Georgia. Well, Georgia in 2017. But you got Alabama with a couple, Auburn, LSU. Then you get into the college football playoff, where there's usually an SEC team, obviously, that's either winning the national championship or in the national championship. May not always win. So we look at this particular 2020 football season, and, I just wanted to dig in and see who has the hardest job from a coaching standpoint. And I'm talking about assistant coaches at this point. Gus Malzahn obviously is the head coach and can't coach everything, so he has assistant coaches who share some of the levels of accountability on this particular staff. So I found four guys on this coaching staff that has arguably the hardest job as far as everything that has been thrown at them, as far as no spring practice, either a brand new coach, either inexperienced coach, brand new personnel, all of that stuff. Those are the things that I factored in when I came up with this list. So the first guy is Jack Bicknell. Now, we know that Jack Bicknell came from Ole Miss. He's an offensive line coach. Why does he have one of the hardest jobs on the Auburn football staff this year? Well, number one, no offensive line starter is coming back. Two, he's in a position to where Auburn is in desperate need to improve the consistency of the offensive line play. But who does he have the work? Because, see, when you think about the offensive line, you think about physicality. You think about trying to figure out what part of the offensive line fits this particular player's skill set. And then when you think about it, how can he test the waters? It could possibly be middle of June or somewhere around there to where he actually gets his first look at the potential physicalities of the players that he has to offer. That he has at his disposal. Now, you might be able to look at a little film review on some players, get some skill sets, and then you have to think about the schematics, the pulling guards, all those different things. How can you analyze it without having physical contact or putting guys in real case scenarios? You're not going to be able to do this virtually. Like, this has to be done tangibly. And that's going to be a huge task. Then you have recruited guys that were in the recruiting class of the 2018, 2019, 2020. So at least at the surface level, we're not going to say talent. He has players available. A lot more depth, a lot more opportunity to, from an educated standpoint, assess what he has. But it's still going to be difficult, especially as the more time that goes by with this whole social distancing thing and NCAA not allowing any type of practice. It gets more and more urgent as time goes on. And that urgency could translate into some very sloppy football play, assuming that the season does take place. Number two on my list is Carnell Williams. The Carnell Williams, former Auburn running back, back in 2004, had a nice NFL career, put his stamp as one of the best running backs in Auburn history. Now he's the running back coach. Why does Carnell Williams have one of the hardest tasks in or for a coach on Auburn staff? Well, number one, it's only a second year coaching Power 5 football. Yeah, we know a person might have played the position, but it's a difference between playing a position and coaching a position. But I will say that that playing a position can give you some insight as to how to coach it, especially if you can translate, being a steward of your craft to a point to where you can teach others how to do it based on their particular skill set. Now, the problem you have is when you were very talented at something, sometimes you kind of have a one-track mind and you think that running the football goes, one particular way. But I don't think that's going to be the case with Carnell Williams. The biggest task that he has, though, is the fact that, one, Boobie Whitlow, the main running back for the last 2 years, hit the transfer portal. So now experience is going to be a huge factor. Good thing is you're not short on talent. You got DJ Williams, you got Sean Shivers, Mark Anthony Richards, and the onboarding of Tank Bigsby, who could possibly be, his skill set could possibly transfer over to Power 5 football, maybe immediately, maybe not. The only issue, again, no way to physically determine who's going to be able to carry the load. Because Tank Bigsby, golden opportunity, early enrollee, but spring practice gets canceled. So Carnell Williams has a very difficult task in determining, especially with the SEC being a very run-heavy conference, determining who's going to be the guy that carries the load. Now he could do the running back by committee thing, or he could do the two-back deal like he and Ronnie Brown did back in 2004, but that's yet to be determined. The next guy that I think has a really hard job, a really hard job. You talk about a brand new offensive coordinator in Chad Morris. Chad Morris has the crazy task of having to piece all of this stuff together. Trying to add on to the wide receiver depth, coming up with offensive schematics, offensive line questionable, running back position questionable. Quarterback might be the only position intact, obviously, because you have an experienced quarterback from last year, SEC Freshman of the Year, Bo Nix, but still a hard task nonetheless. And last but not least, the guy with one of the hardest jobs at Auburn right now, Wesley McGriff. The reason why I say Wesley McGriff is because, one, you losing a whole plethora of talent from safety, Jeremiah Denson, Daniel Thomas. Then you look at the cornerback position, you're losing both of your veteran cornerbacks in Javaris Davis and Noah Igbenogany. What do? One, the same issue that the other coaches are having, no spring practice, so you can't put these guys to the test. Of course, you have some potential talent there from the recruiting classes for the last few years, but at the same time, you don't have that physical element to where you can test these guys in situational type scenarios, okay? So I'm going to tell you guys, what do you all think about this list? I think these guys have the hardest task coming into the potential 2020 season. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Click the bell so you can be notified every single time we decide to come on, which is just about every single day. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.